So for the Nashville Predators, a lot of stuff went down while this YouTube channel was taking a break this summer. It was absolutely insane. Let's run through these things really quickly. First, they fired John Hines. What? That is shocking. Honestly, I didn't expect that at all. Was it disrespectful to John Hines and the way that they handled him? We'll talk about that in just a second. And then they did what? They traded Ryan Johansson as a cap dump? Okay, I guess we're going full rebuild. And then, totally shocking, they bought out Matt Duchene. There wasn't anybody who was willing to take him off their books at all. There was nobody who needed a guy to hit the cap floor. Matt Duchene had to get bought out. That one's going to hurt later on. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Then free agent frenzy hits, and they sign Luke Shin, Gus Nyquist, and Ryan O'Reilly. So they're not starting the full rebuild. They're maybe trying to be a bubble team this year. And so ends the major moves of the summer for the Nashville Predators. And to this date, that's all we have. And wow, let me tell you, this was absolutely insane. And so what I want us to do as we get ready to start the season, welcome back to another season of Ben McGreevy Sports and talking about the Nashville Predators. I wanted us to quickly talk about each of these things, starting out with John Hines. John Hines was somebody who we have talked a lot about on this YouTube channel. We felt like there were a lot of moments during the season where the team had potential, the team had skill, the team had the ability, and John Hines just somehow wasn't getting that out of players. We looked at guys like Eli Tolvanen, who came in and had opportunities to do great things, except for that when it came down to it, we felt like the coaching staff wasn't where they needed to be. And so we really felt like John Hines needed to probably go. Not saying that he was a bad coach, just saying he maybe didn't fit in Nashville at this time. But deep down in our hearts, we knew that wouldn't happen until Barry Trotz took over. And there was a moment when it felt like, okay, this Trotz move is going to be exactly the same as the Poile era. We're not going to make any moves. We're just going to be nice. We're going to love the guy. We're going to just pretend like we're okay. And if we fire a coach, we're going to say it's not the coach's fault. It's the player's fault. They should have played way better. And Barry Trotz comes in and is honestly a little bit cruel in how he handles this. He leads John Hines along, does a full-fledged coaching search, essentially telling John Hines, hey, if we find a better guy, we're going to hire him. But if we don't find a better guy, you have a job this fall. And they find a better guy. They find Andrew Brunette, the guy who scored the first goal in Nashville Predators history. And let me tell you, this hiring of Andrew Brunette, to me, starts the Trotz era out on the right foot. When you look at a guy like Andrew Brunette, what you see is a guy who loves offense. The building in Nashville has been stale. It's still a great atmosphere, but compared to what it was 4 years ago when there was something exciting about the way they played under Peter Laviolette, the building has just felt like this dull place. They're saying they're this tough team to play against, but they haven't even really been hitting that hard. And suddenly you have a guy who has the most offensively proficient team in NHL history while he's the interim coach for the Florida Panthers. And then he takes the New Jersey Devils from a place where they weren't making the playoffs to a place where, hey, maybe this team could win the Stanley Cup as an assistant coach. And now he's the head coach of the Nashville Predators. Let me tell you, I think this Andrew Brunette hire is well worth it. And what I'm about to say is harsh, but I don't necessarily care that John Hines was done a little bit dirty in this moment, because I think that's maybe been an issue with the Nashville Predators franchise for a long time. It seems like they've just buddied with people and hired their friends instead of the right guy for the job, done the easy thing instead of the difficult thing. And I think that letting John Hines go weeks after the season ended, almost 2 months after the season ended, is something that was a difficult decision, but it had to be done because there was somebody better out there. And I think that freshness in the front office that Trotz is bringing is something that is going to be felt inside of the organization. And Burnett might not win immediately. The players genuinely, I don't think, have the skill to do it. But you have a goalie that can stop pucks. And you have guys like Philip Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly and maybe some young guns who can score some goals. And I think for those reasons, Andrew Burnett is going to be a good fit. And I'm willing to give him 4 or 5 years because I think that it might take that long to get this roster where it needs to be in order for him to be the most successful coach he can be here in Nashville. But I thought this hiring was excellent, and I'm looking forward to seeing how he does behind the bench here in Nashville. Now, moving on to Ryan Johansson, this one stings because Ryan Johansson was a player that we attached to here in Nashville. I will make another video kind of commemorating Ryan Johansson's time here because I think that Ryan deserves that. I think that he is historically one of the greatest Predators that has ever existed. But who he was for this franchise was massive. He was the first true number one center that this team ever had. And to watch him leave was difficult, but I think for the team in this moment, it was the right decision. I think that we have to be fair for a second. This trade was going to happen at the trade deadline if he was healthy. He was hurt at the trade deadline, so it doesn't happen. What's unfortunate about it is in return for this, they just got Alex Galchenyuk, and I'm thankful they let him go immediately. But for Ryan Johansson, you could have gotten a first-round pick at the deadline, I believe, maybe from a contender who is going to do Ryan Johansson on their team for $4 million, which is what the Colorado Avalanche get him for. And for Joey, if the Nashville Predators don't win the Stanley Cup, I would love to see Joey get one as a third or fourth line center there in Colorado. He's going to be a beast on that team, surrounded by great players. And I'm very excited for who he's going to be going forward. It's going to be fun to watch him, and I truly believe he will be a Nashvilleian for life. And so we'll give him a good farewell video at some point soon on this channel because he definitely deserves it. And so I don't hate that move there by Trotz. Let's get to the Matt Duchene buyout because this one is a little bit strange to me. The Matt Duchene buyout is not something that was expected in any way. Like I said to start this video, am shocked that there's not a single team that was willing to take Matt Duchene on for free. Like, it's almost one of those things where I think the Nashville Predators would have been willing to just say, hey, we'll give you Matt Duchene for future considerations. We'll give you Matt Duchene and you don't have to consider us in the future instead of buying him out. And the fact that there's not a single team in the NHL who would take on Matt Duchene is shocking to me. The fact that there's not a single team that was willing to take a guy who was going to put up 60 points probably as a cap floor hitter is strange. I don't know what that says about Matt Duchene, but maybe teams are finally starting to look at him and seeing that his teams have never really won anything, and they're starting to question if there's maybe some reasoning behind that. I'm a huge fan of Matt Duchene. I love watching him play. He's so fast. He's so entertaining. But we have to be honest with who he is. And I don't know if he was the guy that was going to take you anywhere. And when they bought him out, Barry Trotz made a comment that Nashville is a place where you don't come to retire. Nashville is a place you come to win. And there were maybe some moments where it felt like Matt Duchene was just content with existing on this team. And maybe that's why they made the decision to make the big changes there and buy him out. I think it's okay. I don't love how much of a cap hit Matt Duchene is going to cost for years to come. I'm nervous that we're going to be bitten by this down the road, especially if you start to win and want to make some changes. But for right now, it's okay. You clear him off the roster. Clearly, Barry Trotz did not want his influence on the younger players. And if you don't want that influence, I mean, when you're building a culture, sometimes it's worth doing things like that. And that's difficult, but you got to do it sometimes. They must think he was a major cancer to this organization to be willing to do that. And then free agency hits. First they sign Luke Schenn. And Luke Schenn was an interesting signing to me because you look at a guy like Luke Schenn who has played on some mediocre teams. He played for Toronto last year, but not very many games. And he also played for Vancouver last year, where he spent most of his season. Here's the good thing about a guy like Luke Schenn is that he's not a major liability. He's been in and out of NHL lineups his entire life, but I really do believe that he can be someone that you throw in with this defensive core, and he'll be playing every night. And he'll probably make you mad some nights, but there are probably going to be some nights he makes some good plays. And he is certainly better than a lot of the 4, 5, 6 guys that Nashville had to suffer through this past season. And so I love the fact that you're adding defensive depth. If you're entirely healthy, he might be a bottom 4. If you're not healthy, you can move him up and he can play some of those minutes that he needs to play. I think that this is a great signing. Also, the Gus Nyquist signing. This one was very under the radar, and it's weird to get him signed. He is coming off injury last season, and that's always nerve-wracking. He's always been a decent player, not somebody who is going to be a huge difference maker on the team. But I will say that getting a guy like Nyquist for a couple of years at $3.185 million is probably not a bad thing. He's a guy who's going to provide some steadiness. He's going to be decent. He's a good bottom 6 guy. And for $3.185 million, go ahead and sign him. You're not trying to win anything right now. And maybe he scores some goals for you if you are trying to win. The big signing this year was Ryan O'Reilly. They signed him for 4 years at $4.5 million a year, which is honestly quite a bit of money for a guy who's 32 years old. But I think that Ryan O'Reilly is going to fit into this organization perfectly. And as you are working to train players like Luke Evangelista or Phil Tomasino or Joachim Kimmel or players like that, Juuso Parssinen, a guy like Ryan O'Reilly is the exact guy you want on your team. When Toronto traded for him last season, my reaction was they're going to win the Stanley Cup. And I believe that if he had been healthy and had they not run into the buzzsaw of the Florida Panthers in the second round, I think Ryan O'Reilly would have made a bigger difference than what we saw him make. He's a player that can make that difference, but he's steady. He's professional. He is going to train the young guys to be a pro. I think Barry Trotz is a culture guy. If you've ever dealt with leading a group in any way, you know that culture is a huge deal. And I think that Barry Trotz is looking at this and he's saying the culture of the Nashville Predators is bad. If you remember back several years ago, it was like 7 to 10 years ago, it used to be you got traded to Nashville and you just thought, man, it would be so cool to come into a group like this. I think that culture has disappeared. Maybe that was Matt Duchene. Maybe that's Ryan Johansson kind of being chill and saying, okay, I'm done. I'm retiring here. This is where I want to be. But I think you look at a guy like Ryan O'Reilly who comes in, I think that he's going to train some of these guys to be pros. Sure, his points production is not going to be insane, but you take a guy who's going to train people to be pros over somebody who's going to train young guys to retire every day of the week. And because of that, I think that Ryan O'Reilly is a huge addition to this team. It's going to be fun to watch him play. I hope jerseys are sold, and I hope we see him playing in Nashville all 4 of those years, and he goes down as somebody who is a great Nashville Predator who we love. I am interested. What do you think about what the Nashville Predators did this summer? If you comment down below, I'm loving your thoughts that you've given on previous videos. I want to see what your thoughts are on this team, on this organization. Do you think that this team is a playoff team? Do you think that they are going to miss the playoffs by a lot? What would you rather them do? We'll do some prediction stuff as we get closer to the season and we can kind of see how the lineup fills out a little bit better. But with the moves that the Nashville Predators made, where do you think they sit in the Central right now? If you don't mind hitting the like button and the subscribe button and that bell icon, we are back full-fledged into another season of hockey as we get into August, September, October, and I want you to be along for the ride this year. If you enjoy these videos, share them with your friends. Let them know that you come to this source for all your Nashville Predators news and other hockey videos, and I cannot wait for us to have an amazing season together. Let's roll on the 2023-2024 season. Have a great day. and we'll see you next video.